Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 11 of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Clare Rowley, inventor of the Creative Feet line of sewing machine products. And today I'm going to start by saying I have to eat some humble pie because when I cut out the pattern last week, I did it wrong. Thank you, Wendy, I believe, for pointing that out to me. And it would be great if you guys could talk out loud so she could have said, no, you need to do this. So I'm going to show you what I did wrong last week. And hello to Tina and Roxy. I think that's cute. You know, you can always learn, even if you're not going to make something for your own dog because you don't have one. This will benefit you in making a garment for yourself or for any little munchkin that you may have in your life. Hello, Amber Roberts. Okay, everybody. I think that everything is working this week. So we may finally have gotten through all the technical difficulties of 2022 and be on a good path for the rest of the year. For those of you who are just joining us today and didn't know that I started last week, I am teaching the pattern number 1615 from Sophie and Friends. This is an Etsy pattern. The link is in the description below the video. It is adorable. I don't know if my Tinkerbell will wear it more than 5 minutes, but she will be wearing it at least for one picture, that's for sure. Hi, Linda. So it is... I saw Grace and something. Yeah. Sadie Grace. So on the pattern pieces, it says 1615 and Tinkerbell's a small. Sadie Grace dress A and B bodice. And what I did wrong last week, first off, I cut off the bottom of this pattern piece on accident. And I was looking at this dot as that is where I believe we're going to be gathering or joining everything together. We'll see. I'm going to read. But these little dots right here, she has you tape them together to create a bigger pattern piece rather than have to sew a seam there. So I recut and glued my pattern piece. And part of my pattern will have regular pink and part will have this pink with a pattern. So that is what I did wrong. What are you insinuating, Amy? Yes, we have sound, we have action, we have admission of making a mistake last week. And I'm so glad that you're all joining me today. With such heavy news going on right now, it's commendable. You know, when I cut the pattern out, it has these little things that you cut out and they look like perfect little pockets. And I keep wanting to add a pocket to this design, but I think I should stick with just what they have created here. One of the things I want you to know is that you should be using lining according to the pattern. And lining is a fusible, permanent. What you want to look for in the store is a permanent version of fusible stabilizer, which I only have black. And so just pretend I used that on mine and we'll be good. Another thing I recommend you do is to, when you print this pattern out, so you don't do what I did. Let's see, wrong one. Here we go. Is to look at the pattern instructions first. And I was over here looking, and it printed out this way. I tend to skim through things, though. I'm a skimmer. I look through and I go, okay, yeah, I've sewn 1,000 things in my lifetime. I don't really need to read the directions. But I didn't design the pattern. So follow the pattern instructions first on how to cut everything out so you won't make a mistake like I did. So basically, I didn't do that yet. And she has you do 2 ruffles. And since I had an issue with the ruffle last week, I thought I'd do that again. I already have one cut out. I was going to make one before, but I got distracted with some very exciting news. For those of you who know that we've been out of the stick and rinse stabilizer for a long time now, because once COVID hit, a bunch of companies that used to make part of the ingredients for our wonderful product just simply stopped. They just went, no, we're not going to do it anymore. COVID kind of made us not want to do that anymore. And then the next company, and then the next company. Well, I have exciting news. We actually have the source. Now, does not mean that we have it in stock, but this is the test, and it tested really well. So this is, I thought I'd just stitch a little bit. Just give you a little glimpse of what it is that I'm so excited about and why I didn't have time to actually make one of these little doggy dresses before I went live is because I was dealing with negotiation and all the other stuff that goes in this. This is just a straight stitch, and this is a printable sticker that you can stick down and then sew right over using our Octi-Hoops. This is the little handle that you use to steer. So you could embroider on your little dress a butterfly or anything else that you may want to do using our stick and rinse once we have it back in stock. But we are about to order. Isn't that exciting? I'm so excited. Do you know how many times I've been asked, how do you handle this and how do you handle that? And I want to say, my stick and rinse stabilizer. Like, how do you sew stretch fabrics together and not have them stretch out? Well, stick and rinse. And so it's going to be great to have it back in stock again. Have any of you used it before and can agree with me on how exciting it is? This doesn't look like it was put together right. Who put this together? All right. And now I am seeing also the chat is working and I'm not delayed. Am I choppy? I am a little choppy, aren't I? It looks like it on my cell phone. So I think I'm just going to bail on their chat, which kind of isn't fun. But I told them that seemed to be the problem last week. So now I've closed their chat. And we'll see if I am moving smoother on my phone here in a second because I don't see it right away. And it's really sad if I can't use their chat. But I have only YouTube on my phone right now. It still looks a little... I may have to invest in a bigger, badder computer. Honestly, I think it might have something to do with so many people watching what's going on in the world. Slowing down the bandwidth, but we don't know. We don't know. I'm not going to worry about it. See, it's actually timing out. Well, that didn't help. So I'm going to turn the chat back on. I'm going to try turning something else off that I'm using. and see if that doesn't speed things up. This looks like internet. This isn't fair. Sorry I'm being so quiet, you guys. This happened last week. All right, well, I don't know. Doesn't seem to have fixed anything. The gremlins are at your house, Amy. I want to see my fingers tapping smoothly. See, and my cell phone is not on my Wi-Fi connection. So the only thing on my Wi-Fi is this. And we've been doing this for a few years now. This has not been a problem. This is terrible. And last week it just started working, right? If I remember correctly. This is frustrating, you guys. I just want to entertain you. I don't want to frustrate you. So if we follow the directions, I feel like I should just record this and then upload it. As bad as this is. I'm gonna just look at something. Make sure nothing is running in the background that shouldn't be. Come on, make that be what it is. You never know what Windows is gonna do when you shut off things. It's better now. You see me moving. That's not enough. I know what I can do. Let's see. I'm just going to make sure nothing else is running. Let's see. I need a checklist that I look at every time. It's amazing that I'm able to do this right now. Hang on, you guys. It's so embarrassing. Really, it's using 100% of my CPU right now. All right, I'm just gonna stop messing around with that and see if it goes. We got our top here and our close-up camera. At least that camera's been working. Yeah, I just need the world to settle down so that I also have a normally functioning brain. Looks like things are moving right. Yay! Who knows what? Who knows what causes these things? Vincent, my son, does. So I wish I had his brain mixed in with mine. Okay, so basically I'm cut out all of the pattern pieces. I need to type a checklist and have it hanging on my monitor, so I do make sure that Windows hasn't messed with the back end of my computer, because that's what I think happened. And it's not supposed to share settings with another computer, and it looks like it is. Okay, so the cutting instructions are done. Now we're going to do the sewing part, and I'm going to go ahead and show the ruffle again, because I have no idea how it all came out last week. I couldn't bear to even watch the replay at all. I really am better at sewing than this, you guys. I can't prove it right now, but definitely easier to follow my own pattern. Okay, so we did the collar sewing. I have the little collar pieces from last week, absent of the interfacing. But I figure since they're double layered that's enough, considering my doggy is not going to be entering a fashion contest. Now we need to secure the neckline to the correctly cut bodice. Overlapping at the center. So now this will actually fit around Tinkerbell's belly. And we are going to sew these pieces together, but before, and this is the one I want to be on the outside, I'm going to put these pieces here, overlapping, and I can't think of a better way of doing that other than gluing. Nice to have that fold there from where I cut it on the fold, but that could hinder sewing. But once we've got this secured, I can iron it. So using the liquid-based glue, and I'm also going to glue these two together as well, so that the two layers inside are going to be secured to one another. That will make them behave as one, which is ideal when you're sewing on a curve. It's gonna be cute, you guys. Even if Tinkerbell won't let me put it on her. There we go. Now here's why you want to use the same color needle and bobbin thread, because they are both like the same, and I should have flipped it over for this piece. So you can see that this has a lighter bobbin thread, or a lighter thread. There we go. Tell you what, I am so excited about getting that stick and rinse going again. Because she has you sew it to one side first. Where's the part where we sew the other? There it is. I'm never going to do this again without sewing it first. Because it's really hard to tell. Other than this, there's proof there's two sides. So you can see there's two sides to the skirt. But I'm not seeing that on the bodice part. This is where you can see that there is a double side on the bodice. So we have one color there and the other color there. So I know I did it right. I could just read it, but you know. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and since the last thing I did was free motion with the Octi-Hoops, I have to put my machine snap-on adapter back on. Hello, Joanne. American Pit Bull. Those are American Bulldog, or I don't know. I don't know enough about big dogs. I do know my friend has an American Bulldog, and the dog's head is gigantic. She does have other patterns for bigger dogs. Should you want to make this, I believe she does have it available in larger sizes. I bought the small medium pattern because my dog barely exists. She's only that big. So now I'm going to use the Satinedge Foot to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance and attach the collar to the back. If I can find my Satinedge Foot, there it is. And the Satinedge Foot has this little wire that's inside the zigzag opening. It's kind of dark under here. And I'm going to position the guide and the wire 1/4 inch away from one another. You can do so using a measuring tape. Which honestly, for this, I wouldn't think it would be that crucial to be perfect, but we may as well try to be perfect. Once again, take and lower your needle so it hovers over one of the lines on the measuring tape. And then we move the guide over from that line there, we move the wire over to the 1/4 inch mark. So the needle and the wire are then 1/4 inch apart from one another. And that is what I'm doing. I wish I had a better camera angle for you. Those of you who do have dogs, what's your dog's names? And why'd you name them? What you named them? Chase is named Chase because he chases balls. So now I don't have to worry about sewing over pins. And generally when I sew something like this and I know I'm going to have to sew another lining, I won't sew it a 1/4 inch. I'll sew in a little bit. That way I can, on the next pass, go around and taking off my shoe. So I think I'm going to follow my normal routine, and that is to not sew all the way to the 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go to a little bit smaller than a 1/4 inch for this. Start up on it and then go back a little bit. And you could also sew this with a longer stitch length and a lighter tension so that should you have to rip it out, you can. The needle I have on is an 80-12 universal, which can sew through up to 12 layers of a lightweight cotton or cotton poly woven material. What made you name them Jacks? Next step. Shoulder ruffles together. And the shoulder pattern pieces are here. Another thing that should have lined, it looks like anyway. Of course, the pattern would tell you. I'm going to sew these together, as she says, across the top. Now, this is a time when your fabric can spread across the bias and stretch out of shape. So great opportunity for using the liquid-based glue to pin it together at least every inch or so, just a little dot. Another option would be to do a satin stitch around the edge of these and not have to turn them right side out. One of the benefits of the Satinedge foot, being able to replace the need for a serger. But I'm trying to respect the pattern. Boston Terrier. I think I know what those look like. Is that the creamy color, white, and like the color of coffee? Notice I spread out the glue before I apply my next piece of fabric. And this is how you can aid anyone who has vision issues. This is partly how they can sew so accurately, is using the glue to secure the fabrics together. Now there's no worry about them shifting. They don't move around on you when you go to sew it together. Right now I have a white bobbin and a yellow needle thread. And that's because when I gather fabric, I like to have 2 different colors of thread. So a few stitches forward, a few stitches back. And now instead of watching the needle, we watch right here and we just keep bringing the fabric back till it touches the white part of the guide. You don't have to really watch and be real careful on how it touches, just kind of push toward it. And even if it starts to look like it's buckling, the guide wire, the pin in the needle area, that's what actually does the guiding. And this is how you can also use this for clamshell quilts and drunkard's path quilts and go around your curved pieces without stretching them out of shape. Except for when we do that, we don't use the glue at all. I know she's probably going to have you do this, and that would be to clip around your curve. Another thing that I would do if this were a garment for me, I'd use a shorter stitch length on any curve stitching like this. Less likely to see the stitch when you turn this right side out. Xena or Xenia. Is that it? How you pronounce it, Tammy? Xenia? It reminds me of the movie Xanadu with Olivia Newton-John. See how nice that curve was maintained? No distortion, no stretching out of shape because of the glue. Where's the other one? Oh my goodness. We have that, and what did I do with the other 2 pieces? That's just silly. This must be on the floor. It was attached to my arm. If I had the front camera arm, Amy would have been going, "It's on your arm, it's on your arm." All right. What's the weather like where you guys are? It's really cold here today. I know it mentioned rain at some point today, but I think we could, if it's gonna rain, it's gonna snow. Notice that my hand kind of stays in one spot. I brace my hand on the machine and put one finger there and very lightly touching. Remember, don't watch the needle, watch the white part of the guide, and just make sure the fabric's always touching. This is a better size scissor option for this. I don't cut all the way to the stitching line. Okay, turn it right side out. Once again, and this is one of my fabric pressers that I make for you guys. So this is going to be gathered, which is partly why I think not stabilizing or not having an additional look at that. It's a circle. Oh, the silly things. Kind of, you know, this reminds me of a change purse that they used to sell when we were younger, and it was kind of rubbery feeling. Did any of you have one of those? So the automatic gathering technique that I showed last week, and also the couture method of gathering I showed last week, if you have your fabric stabilized with an additional stabilizer, inner lining, then it becomes so thick that an automatic gathering stitch doesn't work as well. So we have another gathering technique for this. And once again, I'm going to use the pearls and piping foot. And this is a good one when you're working with like bed sheet ruffles. You can use pearl cotton to help you gather. Or in the case when you have a little piece like this, you can use your needle and bobbin thread in place of any kind of cording. Bringing my bobbin thread up. Notice that I'm not saying, where are my tweezers? Where are my glasses? All because of the little presser cozy that goes in front of my machine. And when I'm sewing, I just put my foot that I'm going to switch back to right in there as well. Pearls and piping foot has a tunnel beneath it that allows for thick bodies of threads and cords and pearls and anything round that doesn't squish flat, you can stitch over it. See, now I want to make a change purse like that. I think we could do that. So I am going to glue this together before I gather. Once again, when you have 2 layers of fabric, you have it's like 2 humans, 2 things behaving separately. But when you join them together for 100% of one side to 100% of the other, then you have no chance of one of them trying to run away from the other. So those 2 fabrics will not shift on you, and it'll make it piece into the garment better as well. I'll go ahead and do that again with the other one. Half the time I look back on my videos and I have what looks like dried skin on my fingers, but that's just the glue. So I would have a wet washcloth handy for you to dry yourself off or wipe it off. I'm going to cut these little tails off or dog ears off on the ends so we have a nice clean straight edge. This pink makes me think of a granddaughter that I wish I had. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead of an automatic gathering stitch, because it's just too thick for it to behave as good as it would, is I'm going to use the needle and bobbin thread to gather. And I do this by bringing the needle down into the fabric and bringing back up the bobbin thread. So take the needle thread center needle position. You guys should share pictures in the school of your dogs. So bring that bobbin thread up through the fabric. And this is all about not worrying about breaking thread when we adjust the gathers so that we can get really accurate gathers. Now I'm going to sew 1 full stitch. So needle goes down and comes back up, needle goes down and comes back up. And then take it back, needle down, bring the needle and bobbin thread beneath the foot. Make sure you're centered with your sewing machine. I'm not. I'm way off to the side. I'm like over there, and I should be centered. Holding up the thread straight up, even if your hand is off to the side or anywhere up there, because of the shape of the tunnel, it goes up and centers with your zigzag stitch. And now you want to select a zigzag stitch and make it narrow. I'm using a 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Chicken noodle soup, that sounds good. Now the longer the stitch length, the more it will gather as you sew. But you don't have to gather as you sew. You can just stitch, and I'm holding it very, very lightly right now. And then I can just stretch it afterward and it gathers up. And it doesn't break because I have 2 layers of thread to stretch. So if you feel more comfortable just sewing to the end without gathering first, now we just take and we're going to go ahead and cut the threads that are connected to the fabric. And these are the threads you hold onto for gathering that up. See how nice that gathers up? We'll do that again on the other one. So one more time, if you're taking notes, we're going to use a straight stitch and bring our bobbin thread up through the fabric. Needle down, needle up, pull on that bobbin thread, grab that bobbin thread and pull it out. Bring the needle down. So one full stitch. If you don't do that, the stitch can come out. Okay, and then we lower the needle. Bring the threads beneath the foot, select a zigzag stitch. The narrower the width, the more control you'll have on adjusting that. You got a long arm for your anniversary? Congratulations. How fun is that? I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a little hint. Did he give you one with the computer? So this time I'm gathering as I sew. And all that is done by is just by holding this taut as the machine sews. See how nice that looks? And I did go in. I didn't do 1/4 inch. I did about 1/8 inch away from the edge. That way this stitch won't be visible inside the seam allowance. Oh yeah, it's so cute. Isn't that cute? You mean you just got the feet, Tammy? Oh, it's just adorable. It's just so adorable. And I'm assuming that it's going to go there. But we will look at the pattern. There it is. I would have done it incorrectly. Here we go. And I forgot to cut my darts or my little clips. It's not too late to put them on. Camera. Oh, the other one's up there. Should have folded it because then I would have been cutting all 4 at the same time. But that would have been too clear-minded for me this week. There's the other one. Pretty sure that's what they were for. Yep, it is. Doesn't seem like a lot of gather. Could have done more. So now what we're doing is easing. And easing is gathering your fabric up and distributing your ruffles evenly across a distance. There's the mark, there's the mark. It's not much gathering. Not very much. Of course, it is a teeny weeny little dog. So what I want to do is pin on the end that is secured, or clip. And this is your chance to really think it through. We're going to go to the halfway mark. And pin on that halfway mark. And I am going to pin because the clips are so big for this teeny weeny little outfit. Once you know that you have the correct size for your ruffle, then you could tie a knot with the threads. If you left them a little bit long, you could have tied the knots, tie a knot with the two threads, with the thread that's connected to it, to stop it from stretching or slipping. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but it sounds interesting. Yeah, I think I'll lose that clip and pin this as well. It's so unlike me to use pins. If I can avoid it, I do. Okay, we'll do the other one. And this is what I meant before. If I'd folded it, and there's lining too, but I don't think it matters on the lining. You could also, instead of cutting on marks to keep the garment stronger, you could use marker instead of cutting through your fabric. If you're just joining us now, this will be able to be viewed after I'm done going live. And today is what day? My clock disappeared. What is the date today? March 10th of 2022. So if you're watching this and it is not that date, then you're watching the replay. And this is one of my gathering techniques. Inside of the Creative Feet Technical Guide and Workbook, and with the corresponding 2-hour instructional video that goes with it, if you buy it or bought the educational special, then you actually have 7 different methods of gathering fabric, and we can even gather up denim. So there's really no fabric that we can't gather. Now here is important that you get this little bugger out of the way. So there's a clamp, a time to use the clamp, or we could end up pinning, which I did over here, I pinned my collar to the ruffle. Well, that was an oops. A oopsie. So what I did here was I didn't sew 1/4 inch distance away from the edge. I sewed in from a 1/4 inch so that when I go to sew this on, the stitch that's in here will be invisible or locked inside. There we go. There I go, saying there we go again. What should I do next week, you guys? Let's think about it. Let's discuss it. Because no matter what, this is, I don't really plan on doing a part 3 on this. Of course, never know. What time is it? It's funny how these little tedious things take time. So we clip the collar to keep it out of the way. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach that and make sure I sew past using the Satinedge foot, because the Satinedge foot helps you maintain that distance, that 1/4 inch spacing away from the edge. As long as you select your left needle position and move the guide 1/4 inch distance away from the needle. And you'll notice that the bodice is not a normal curve right here. It's not just a curve. It comes up and goes over. So you want to make sure that you're following that curve when you sew that piece in there. Whoopsie. Every time I say whoopsie, I hear another whoopsie in my head going, oh, there you did it again. So instead of watching the needle, I'm watching the front, the white part of the guide, and making sure the fabric's touching it. But I'm also making sure that the edges of the fabric stay together. Not worrying about my needle position because it is governed by the foot. Coming up on this pin, never sew through pins, no matter what anyone's told you. I'm a sewing machine mechanic, and it's not worth the damage you can do to your machine. Once again, looking here, just making sure you keep those fabric edges together. That's how you maintain that unique curve that is integrated into this pattern. And now I'm using the tip of this pin to just kind of hold the fabrics together while I approach the end. And then let go. And that's how cute it's gonna look. Aw, isn't that sweet? All right, other side. It's definitely easier to start where it is knotted. So that's positioning your gathered pieces down. If you stitch on the side that's locked, then and you've locked the other end, you're not going to be undoing or causing your ruffles to shift on you. Pull the pin out. Use the pin as little teeny weeny fingers. Always starting on the thing that's thicker. So a couple stitches forward and then go back. Instead of trying to get your foot to start on and have to go up a slope. Keeping your eye not on the needle, but focused on the side of the foot. This is my chance to even out my little ruffles here. Because that piece is not a consistent curve You could lower your needle if you want. I tend to not do that. Remember, don't watch the sewing machine needle. Come over here. Come here, little ruffle. Could I have glued this to make it easier? Perhaps. But just the act of gluing the ruffles together before gathering makes it tremendously easier than it would have if I did not do that. Needle down, lift, kind of help that ruffle go in there. My fingers do not like holding on to little objects like this. It's partly why I don't like hand sewing that much. I'm not meant to do it, I think. Just a little slow process. The fabric matches my dog walking bag. So Tinkerbell will be a match set if I can get her to wear it. And there we go. It's starting to look like it, isn't it sweet? Are you guys having fun? What are you guys making for dinner? I know one of you has chicken noodle soup on. I'm always hoping you'll give me an inspiration for something unique to make. But what I really feel like doing is going out and have someone serve me. I feel like I should keep those collars clipped until I've sewn the other lining. We'll see what she says to do. We not only have to be aware or mindful of the collar, but we now have to be mindful of the ruffle as well and get it folded into the middle. So we've got maybe we pin the two of them together. Then that can never be under that, and that can never be over here. This definitely feels a lot like mask making. Salad. See, I was craving a salad today. Friday, I'm going to the store. Tinkerbell is having a heart echo. She's got something going on with her heart, you guys. Say a prayer for my puppy. If you do this, make sure you're not pulling, causing the fabric to buckle in as you bring these two together. I wonder if my friend Terry would want to go out. Probably not. She's boring lately. So mean of me to say that. Okay. So now, sew the two together, and we're going to leave the area open that I didn't mark. So on the pattern, we have the little dots, and we don't want to stitch between those two sections. Okay. I was able to text her while on the phone with you, or on the video with you. I got everybody trained, so she's probably going, should I text her back? I don't know. She's live. If she's live, she may not want me to text her back. So in this case, I'm going to start where the dot is, so that I can have one continuous row of stitching going all the way around. And I think, based on what I'm seeing here, that is what she has you do. But I'm going to mark this too. I'm going to use a little circle. It would be so painful to watch me if I were her. I don't know if she ever joined us for watching me make her pattern, but last week I was really out of sorts. Yeah, Tack, apparently Tink has a heart murmur. No, I did not text her to tell her she was boring. Should I tell her that I told everyone that if she doesn't go to dinner tonight, she's boring? Now I am using the advised seam allowance. 1/4 inch seam allowance. Tinkerbell will probably wear this once for a good photo, and I'll share it in the school. We're going to stop 1/4 of an inch away from the needle, and if you want to be really accurate when you do that, you can mark your sewing machine using some washi tape, which I should have done before I got to this point. I'm pretty good at measurements here. Lift, turn, nope, one stitch further. So as we come up, instead of watching the needle, we're going to be looking for the tape. And then I know when I'm at the tape, one stitch further. There we go. I didn't pin any of this because I don't feel like I need it, but if you want, by all means you can. And also, or use the glue to secure the fabrics together. If you had fused lining to your fabric, as she indicates, you'd have an even easier time. So now as we come around an inside curve, lower the needle, lift and turn. Couple stitches, lower the needle, lift and turn. This just eases around that curve. Lift and turn. And I'm mindful of the fact I have that straight pin there. It might hinder the foot's movement, so I'm going to push it in a little. Get that away from the edge. So notice that I lowered my needle. I don't do that very often. Grilled cheese sandwich. Grilled cheese sandwich tomato soup. Well, that's a comfort food for me. Looking for my tape. Lift and turn. She's definitely not a boring person to go out with. She's just... Otherwise, I wouldn't want to go out with her, right? We actually have a very good time when I can get her to go out. Lift and turn. Another instance where shortening the stitch length on curves gives you a better look. Lift and turn. So a few stitches, lower the needle. Lift and turn, keeping your eye on the white part of the guide. Trying to keep that fabric up against it. Now I can see that I could actually lock that in. I didn't pin it far enough over. So we're trying to keep the collar from getting stitched into this seam, and we're trying to get the ruffle to get stitched into that seam. By bringing the two of them together, folding over and pinning, but within a good distance away from both seam allowances. That is also partly why I didn't get to sew a dress, because I've been to the vet a few times this week. I definitely slipped. Lazy behavior. That's what causes that. So now you can see sometimes I do cheat. I had my focus too much on this and lost my focus on keeping these two edges together. Needle down, lift. Shorter stitch length would have been better. We'll see how it all turns out. Saying what you should do and not doing it, which is what I do when I design patterns, because I know that if I tend to not follow directions, you may not as well. So I get to see what will happen if I don't follow the directions. Looking for the tape so I know when to stop. Bring the needle down. I'm getting hungrier by the minute. Not tonight, she said. See? It's all right. I just got to double check. Make sure that everything is tucked in there. It is. Needle down on curves. On inside curves, I tend to bring my needle down. Now when I do quilt piecing and I'm doing an inside curve, sewing an outside piece to an inside piece, I don't feel the need to stop so often. Zoom, zoom. Oops, went too far. Doesn't matter, just back up. Bring it back to the tape. Lower that needle. Now when I cut that corner, I'm going to be cutting some thread. I need to go one more stitch. That's what I get for going too fast, for speeding. Broiled chicken and fries. You know what? I got an air fryer recently. I haven't really learned much about it other than how to toast. Any of you have really good air fryer recipe ideas? Now I'm going to clip these corners. And clip around the inside curve. And I am balancing the scissors on this finger. I'm not just holding that up in the air. This hand, my arch of my hand is resting on the machine. And then I'm putting the scissor on that finger to give me the support I need to be accurate in cutting around that curve. Now it's my middle finger that's becoming a table for the scissor. And now it's my index finger supporting the scissor. And all the while my hand is being supported by either my table or my machine that's holding the scissors. This saves you from cutting through something behind as well if you practice this kind of behavior. And I go about every ½ inch, trying never to catch or clip the actual thread. On the straight, you don't need to do anything. Coming back to the curve. Never going all the way to the thread. I think I'll tell my friend that you said she was boring because she didn't go out. Now that would be dishonest. Now here I got too much thickness, so I am going to open the scissor wider and cut down here, but be very mindful to not cut very far. And that was about 8 layers of fabric right there. Hi, Chase. It must be 2 hours. Or maybe I mentioned DINNER too many times. Actually, I feel like, yeah. Oh, I know how I would construct this. I'm going to turn this right side out and press the bottom fabrics so that I know where to sew them together. Just that itty bitty little piece there. I did it. Baked potatoes. Oh, really? In the air fryer? Ooh, so they get... How long does it take to cook? Do you have to like steam them first? I know nothing about air fryers. I was at Costco and I use my toaster oven for something in the garage for cooking the pressers with resin. And I just kept cleaning it and then cooking with nothing in it until I didn't smell anything. But every time I did it, I felt I needed a toaster oven just for pressers. So I went to get another one and there was an air fryer. And I texted my sister. She goes, buy it. You'll love it. Remember that cool metal tool that I found? No idea where I got this. But the Appliquick tools also, the spatula one, works great for that. Seriously, just 30 minutes? 30 minutes for a baked potato? I bought wings to cook in the fryer and then I went, nah, I put them in the pan. I don't have time to learn this right now. I have to be careful now because those pins are in here. There it is. Whoops. What did I do? I'm not sure if I had the right camera set up or not. So dark over here. So the straight pin is in here. Come on out. Don't poke me. Sometimes my brain doesn't work. Feels like it anyway. Like this should be easier to figure out, but the pin is stopping me from turning that right side out. Where's the head of that pin? There it is. Aw, this is really sweet. I mean, once you make one, this would be a really quick thing. Pizza. I'm not very pizza-ish. If I told her I was going to get pizza, she would probably jump at the opportunity to go. I'm not one that generally does that. And I could see why she recommends lining, because we're going to put Velcro on this. Well, I dropped something on the floor. Wouldn't be a Thursday, unless I dropped something on the floor. It's time to press this. What do you think? Does it look nice? Steak. I'm going to mute myself for a second because I'm going to sneeze. How the heck do you handle a 130-pound dog? What does bath day look like? I could use the iron, but I think I'm going to see if I can't press with the presser. It's nice to support another entrepreneur out there as well and buy her pattern. It's very affordable. Isn't this adorable? Didn't look straight, but it was. So probably, I was like, Velcro next? Nope. Construct the skirt next. Oh, it's just adorable. I don't know. I was talking to the neighbor and I said, I'm making a dress for Tinkerbell and I feel silly. And he's all, oh no, that would be cute. Like, I don't know. Seems a little silly to me. And I only cut one of this, so I need to cut another one of this one. I think I didn't finish breakfast today and have lunch. A German Rottweiler. My brother used to have a Rottweiler. His name was... What was his name? Oh. I feel bad that I don't remember his name all of a sudden. It was a big dog name. Oh, I can't remember his name. I feel so bad. Sweetest dog ever, though. Gigantic, but just adorable. Certainly not scary once you got to know him. The Ninja air fryer. I don't even know the name of the air fryer that I got. It's more of a toaster oven. It's a toaster oven air fryer. And I know one of you was asking if this could be double-sided, and I was like, the only reason it wouldn't be is if I don't make the ruffle for the skirt double-sided, and it just doesn't look like she did it. It looks like just a rolled hem, and that would be the only reason that I can see, other than the leash D-ring. You'd have to sew 2 D-rings, but I'm not going to use it because my dog has a front, because she pulls. So she has a no-pull collar, and she would rip this to shreds if the leash was attached to the dress. So I will show you the concept of the D-ring, but I'm not going to sew it on because there's really no point in that for my purpose. I say I double side the ruffle. What do you guys say? It's gonna be so cute. Oh, maybe I'll bring her to the vet in it tomorrow. They already think she's ridiculous. Super cute. Okay. So we have a pink ruffle, and if I do the other pink, what do you think? Or should I do this? Yeah, I should do that. Of course I should. Do it. Do it, bossy. Bossy, bossy. I don't feel like I need the directions anymore. I don't like this fabric at all. Oh, it's this one. Think I'm done with that? No. It's over here. Boy, am I neat and tidy. Sarcasm, in case you didn't pick up on that. I say I go out even if I don't have her to go out with. No, I can't, because Tinkerbell not feeling well anyway. It wouldn't be fair to leave them home and go out. Do you guys feel that way with your dogs? It's definitely different having a small dog than a big dog, though. Especially when you come home and they have tears on their eyes. They're heartbreakers. So one side's going to be in. This is me trying to be lazy. I'm negotiating with myself. You did it, Stephanie? The bolster changes your life. I'm telling you. I want to make more. Ooh, this pen is so bad. Ugh. I shouldn't use it. Oh, I've used that to open up some glue bottle, not liquid based, but some other kind of glue. And then I'm like, I should save that for the next time, but I'll probably never find it when I need it. Bad habits. You guys should share pictures of your bolsters. I want to see the fabrics you chose. I want to put a pocket on this so bad. Ruler. Where's my itty bitty rulers? Forget it. Just use scissors. I would use my rotary cutter if I didn't have such a mess. So Amy, was it you that I helped make that handle for that purse on the VIP, whatever you want, Claire to sew Saturday that time? I think that's where my D-ring is. I had some D-rings and it's like, where's that handle? That's where my D-rings are. I was going to do the faux one and I forgot. Oh well. And this is why you cut things laying flat, so you don't end up with a bump like that. But one side of this is going into the garment, so there we go. There we go. There I go again, saying there we go. Looks okay, so we're not following the pattern, so I have to think. I hit the wrong button. Push toward the foot, pushes back the other way. Hands stabilized by the machine. Bolster, pillow under your elbow. So you're resting and your fingers are lightly touching the fabric and gently pushing toward the side of the foot. That's the goal. That's what keeps you sewing straight. If you push down too hard, you'll stretch the fabric out of shape. Very light touch. Everything resting. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. Relax. Sewing is supposed to be soft touching. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to cheat. Last night, Chase got very upset. He barked a high-pitched yelp. I think it's because he went to the vet with Tinkerbell yesterday. He did not like being there. He had nightmares he was there again. So I was like, I could do a faux piping look if I use a smaller seam allowance. Uh-oh. This is the first time I haven't been able to find my presser since I made my cubby. Oh, there it is. So the reason the vet says that Tinkerbell may have developed a heart murmur is because I've had her on a grain-free diet. So isn't that great? I guess the veterinarian industry, or whatever you call it, has are trying to figure out what's causing some heart disease in dogs, and they're figuring it is the grain-free diet or too much pea protein in their diet. And since I avoid peas with the dog as much as possible, having known that pea protein may not be the best option. Oopsie, I definitely sewed that wrong. This is my last chance to turn that right side out and sew that better. Oh, I know what I did. I didn't do the 1/4 inch seam allowance on the second pass. This is going to be interesting. So they had me fill out a questionnaire because this is a new vet. I decided to change veterinarians recently. So this one's a lot more thorough than the one that I had previously. Got to make sure the collar doesn't get stuck in there. Is that where the ruffle is? I know you guys like it when I struggle, but I don't. I prefer not to struggle. Prefer not to make mistakes. So remember, I sew the ruffle with a narrower seam allowance, and then after you gather it, then you put it on, and then you do the next one. Then you use a bigger seam allowance. Well, I skipped that step, apparently. Chase ran in when I first got him, and the first time I went away, because I bought him and I adopted him, I should say, or he adopted me. Then I went on a business trip, and when I came back, the dog sitter was like, "I am so sorry." And I was like, "What?" And because apparently your dog just walked right up to the couch and just started chewing, and it was the front, where the armrest is, and he just chewed a big old hole in the couch. He did not like me traveling. That was the only thing he ever destroyed in my house. He's a very good dog. He loves hearing that too. All right. Fixed. I could see this being a very tempting thing to make and sell on Etsy or at your little craft shows that happen around the country. Or just as a donation, something where you can make money and then donate the money toward different things. My mind just went to the Ukrainians, and my heart fell. All right, so definitely use your interfacing, because the Velcro is going to do a lot of wear and tear on that, and it's easier to sew Velcro on a more stabilized area. For those of you who cheat or don't have any stabilizer, I'm showing you how not to do it. Okay, now we're all good to go. Do the ruffle. So when I press like this, I'm pressing at like a 30-degree angle, and I'm trying to make sure that fabrics are spread really nice. And I find this better than an iron for this stage of any ironing process. Now I could bring this over and have the seam allowance folded over and bring it like that. and have that be the edge of the ruffle. Or just center it. I'm just going to center it. So, I don't know. I didn't see Wendy in today, did I? Sorry I haven't been able to say hello to all of you. I've been keeping my eye on my work this week so I don't mess up as much. Now it's easier to press and have that be lined up perfectly, one side versus the other. And press again. This is definitely a time when I will glue all the way down the full length of these two fabrics to keep them from moving. After I press, get a real nice press on here. Nice and pressed. And on the pattern, it doesn't show that she has anything finished right there, so I'm not worried about like turning this fully to be a tube or anything. $3:42. It's not been 2 hours yet. The dog was early. Jace is a snorer. He snores pretty much every night. He does need to lose some weight. He and I both. This is why you put your lid back on so you don't have to clear that. And when you do, make sure you wipe it off. But that's definitely not the glue that was on that pin because it comes off. Dot. When I'm even alone, I do this. I go dot, 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 dot. Hi, Wendy. Thank you for pointing out the fact that I made a mistake on the pattern. I ate my humble pie right away. Showed everybody how to do it right or correct. And this is where I didn't have it cut right, and I can straighten that out now. Iron. There's not enough room up here. It's so funny too because I had my cell phone and I don't remember what time it was when I answered your question in the school, but I wrote no. Oh no, it was on the show comments. I was so sleepy. That's all I had the energy to do was write no. And then you went yes. And I was like, I better read whatever she's referring to. Once again, this doesn't seem long enough to go around here. At all. So I must not have read the pattern. Where is it? I did it on the fold. Cut 4. No, cut 2. And then what? Sew them together? That doesn't make any sense. There's where it is. Right there. Well, at least I know I'm right about being wrong. You try to tell me what? Did you try to tell me that I did this wrong? See, I had enough fabric to where I could just cut it all the way the full length. That would have been easier for me, for my brain. right about being wrong. All along that was bugging me though. I can always use that for something else. And I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna cut it the right length, the long length to begin with. Twice that on the fold. So on the fold, well, that's definitely gonna be plenty. So, are you guys enjoying me make another mistake? I need a new edge-to-edge mat. Do you guys know where I can get one? There actually have been times when I've been like, I don't want to even go live today during this time in the world history. So I need to be easy on myself and not be too harsh on myself for making mistakes. And I hope that you feel the same way for me. This is way too long, but that's okay. Because I can trim it. Do any of you ever cut things like this? It's a little embarrassing. I'm gonna have to teach something where I use all my scraps out of my scrap bag. You're so sassy, Amy. Can make the ruffle longer and make it even fuller. But that's really long. Boy, am I hungry. In case you didn't know that I was hungry. Oh, I just think about my friends that are sewers, the educators, if they ever watch me when I'm having a moment like this. This is why a lot of people don't go live. And if they do, they have like everything pre-cut. Usually those people have helpers that get them all ready for this stuff. This is a 2 1/4 inch. And I really wanted to try that faux piping look. Should I do the faux piping look? So if that's 2 1/4. Two and a quarter, we lose a quarter on both. That subtracts a 1/2 inch. I've never done the faux piping as a gather on a ruffle. And now I'm going to quiz you. Of all the gathering techniques you've seen me do, which one do you think I'll use for a faux piping ruffle? It's going to be double the thickness. So if this one is 2 1/4, we're going to lose 1/4. And I want this one, or I want this one to show. It doesn't matter because we're doing a reverse. Just needs, this one's going to be bigger, which means it's going to show up how less or more if it were a quilt. So 2 1/4. I'm just going to cut it 3. And then evaluate it. To help you understand better about it. So when you do sew these two pieces together, each piece is going to lose a 1/2 or 1/4 inch on one end. And we want one piece to stick out further than the other. So we want it to be 1/2 inch bigger than the other. So this is a little bit bigger than it should be, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's 3. All right, I'm going to sew these together and we will see what we get. The wider one will show the least if it's on a quilt. Good job. You remembered. Always have leave your folds to show which side's right and which side's wrong, so you can go quicker on matching, especially on batiks. All right, once again, bolster pillow for your elbow. Rest your hand on the machine, gentle push toward the foot. This would be similar to doing jelly rolls. We have long strips to sew together. My pinky is out here, gently as a stopping point. It's hard for you to see that, but that's what I do. It becomes what is actually pushing the bottom piece. So I am ensuring myself that I am pushing both fabrics. My index finger is feeling where that piece staggers over. And in front I have a scissor hold on the fabric, and my elbow would be resting on the table if I didn't have a microphone right here, but instead the side of my hand is resting on the table in front of my machine. Remember going over to Kay Wood's house for a slumber party one night, and she goes, I just sit back like this and hold it like that and go da-da-da-dee-da-da, and it just goes right in. Because if you find the right spot to hold your body, as long as you brace your elbows, and she had a chair kind of like this, and she's like, I just sit like this and just sit like that and don't move, and her seams are perfect 1/4 inch all the way down. So it's more about the fact that you're not connected to the planet, and that you tend to rock and change where your head is in relation to the needle. That makes you not sew as accurately, where the Satinedge Foot kind of takes that away from you. So it's elbows down, shoulders relaxed, very light touch. Kay Wood was a show off. If you don't know who she is, she was a master quilting, mathematic, and getting all the pieces to fit. She was just a master at that. They still have a website for her, and she has these different tools that you would enjoy if you're into quilting. The star makers is what they're called. And I interviewed her one night for my YouTube channel, but we had already worked a whole day and I was loopy because we went until I think 2, 3 in the morning. She never got tired. She was amazing. And so here we go. Finish this up. I was hyperextending my wrist. So when your wrist is sticking up like that, it's not good for you. Cuts off blood flow there. Want to have your hand be flat as possible. You guys doing your hand exercises? You're stretching in the morning before you start your day? My dad's kind of like K Wood, 92 years old, and he's like, the rest of us are sleepy on Christmas, and he didn't show any signs of being sleepy at all. And he would say things like, "That's what you get for not brushing your teeth." So funny. So if you sew and you move your arms, your hands a lot, then that's partly why it's harder to sew straight. Want to lock yourself onto the machine, which is locked onto the table, and try not to move. Try not to grab hard on the fabric. Just be the assistant. Let the feed dogs do the pulling through. You don't need to be that puller througher from behind. If you feel the need to pull your fabric through, your stitch length is probably too short or foot pressure too light, depending on what you're doing. So this is a lot longer than the pattern calls for. And we're going to press these seams. Presser's too far for me. If you press one direction, then you press the other direction. Now we're going to bring the two edges together and press again. And now on the edge of that ruffle, you have this cute little, what looks like piping stitched on the edge of that, but it's not, it's just the fabric. So this is something that we do on binding for a quilt, but you can also use it for sewing ruffles. So I got to press that. Stitch length right now, I'm using a 2.5 millimeter stitch length, or 12 stitches per inch if your sewing machine is set up for the per inch. Another thing I do to speed things up is use the side of my table and kind of get it started. Obviously that's not accurate enough, and if you stretch too much, if you rub too hard, you can stretch your fabric out of shape a little. So press on the diagonal to one side, go all the way down, and then press on the opposite direction. And then your seam allowance, or where the two fabrics come together, will be really nice and accurate or consistent. It's kind of like sew your seam and then go to the other side and set your seam. And then we could put pearls on the ruffle too and sew them in. So Tinkerbell could have beads on hers. Maybe I'll cut a little bit off so you can see how you can sew pearls on, but I do need to make sure the video doesn't take too much longer. Mostly because I'm starving. I really did. I'm staring at my breakfast over there. I don't know how I got so... Oh yeah, it was the stick and rinse. I'm like, why am I so loopy today? I'm just too excited. Now we just need to get it in our possession and then send it off to our coater, who coats it with the sticky, the water-soluble sticky part to it. And I can start using it again on videos. I'm so excited. Then, isn't that a stunner? It's also a way of doing a collar as well on garments. But on a quilt, you would wrap your binding around your quilt. You sew it on, and then you fold it, and then you fold it, and you end up with that piping look around your quilt binding, which I've shown several times inside of the Fabrically Speaking live show. Why don't I hear myself? Oh, I must have been quiet for a second. That's a rare thing for me to be quiet. Scared myself because I hear myself on the... There's a delay after I talk and you guys actually hear it. So in order to know that my mic isn't failing or I didn't get too far away from it, because I'm live and I can't adjust the volume for the position of my head in relation to my microphone. I can't believe you guys had the patience to watch me this last week. Okay. So now, so that it doesn't shift and I have perfect seams, because I like that. It's a lot quicker to have a perfect seam than it is to rip out a stitch. Using the glue, slide your finger across, bring those two edges together. It's especially important when you're doing this because your brain will get distracted by the fact that those seam allowances, you're not honest in here. It's not normal. So you're likely to sew it wrong if you don't have it pinned all the way along the edge. You can see once you get quicker at the glue, you won't think that it slows you down to do it. Because sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I don't have time to glue that first. Do any of you do that? Go, oh man, I don't want to take the time to glue it. And then you sew it, and then you have not perfect. If you do, give me a thumbs up. Do you have info somewhere? Stabilizers. I'm going to mute for a second because of the dog. Wow, he's just not being a good dog. He's like, you're telling me to go outside, but you're not in here to boss me around. I'm worried about my neighbor. They took her away in an ambulance last night. I wonder if they're bringing her back. Sorry. Okay, now he's going outside. Oh no, somebody's delivering something. Okay. Oh my ear, hearing him bark. So if I were making curtains, okay, so you had a question. I'm frozen. I was, maybe. I'm not frozen anymore. Sorry about that dog barking. He's doing such a good job at being a watchdog. You know, the thing I'm going to do on this, because of what it is, and it's not a binding, that this will be sticking out on the edges. I'm going to top stitch along the edge of that fabric so that it maintains its position on the edge of the ruffle. As far as what stabilizers to use for everything, having it all in one spot, maybe that's what I should do on my next blog. I'm going to sew along the edge of it this way. No, I'm going to do it this way. Make up your mind. So on our actual stabilizers page, it says what each stabilizer is for, and in the packaging on each stabilizer, there is on the front of the label, it says when to use it for embroidery and when to use it for quilting. Not one stabilizer does only one thing, which is partly why it can be confusing. So I position the guide so that it is keeping my needle in the same spot. Nice and pretty. And now that won't move as the garment gets washed. Just a really nice little pretty element to put on the edge of a ruffle. And now this little dog dress will be reversible. But it won't have the faux piping look on both sides. Now my brain wants to figure out how could you sew it so you could do that? Because I could. There's always, if you can think of it, you can pretty much do it. You just have to. So you can see how fast I'm able to sew because the foot does the steering. And on this side, it's just a nice little edge stitch all the way along the edge. But I could put pearls on the edge of that, and I'm going to show you really quick using this what it would look like. Just so you get an idea. And the thing is we could sew piping into this, but piping makes it thicker. This wasn't cut the same, so it's going to sound different and look different. Just kind of giving you the idea. Vroom, vroom. Oh my goodness. I can order a solid to go. It's so cold out there though. All right, so this is we could sew it according to the pattern. Oh my goodness. But it's Claire's Thursday show and she does whatever she wants. Oh, hot pink. I was like, that looks red. But no, these are hot pink, are they? We aren't limited here at Creative Feet. Should I do a light pearl or a dark pearl? Hurry up, vote. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Vote, vote, vote. Light or dark while I get my invisible thread out. My feet are cold. I took off my slippers. If you do real piping, it's too firm, and a ruffle wouldn't have that fluidity. I think that's the right word. So now this is our invisible thread, and it's 100% nylon. Super strong, so you don't have to worry about it breaking. Whoops! Oh, there goes the yellow thread. The foot is raised, but the tension is not releasing. So my thread went flying. We have a winner. We will do the light color bead on the edge of that. Now I could have left the colored thread on there and sewn it so that you could see the yellow thread in between, which is pretty in itself. But this is going to add a lot of body to it, and I won't be doing this actually on the garment. Just kind of showing you guys what you can do, how you can step outside of a pattern and make it your own by trying new things. You can also use the invisible thread in the needle and the bobbin. As long as you wind your bobbin slower than your machine normally winds a bobbin, or wind it only half full. Because nylon thread is so strong, and as you're winding it, it stretches and releases, and it does that really rapidly, and it creates a temperature change in the bobbin. And it can make your bobbins do what people call exploding bobbin, which is pretty much just the center core gets hot, shrinks, and the outer two parts of the donut that your bobbin is kind of break off of the center post. And if you have a metal bobbin, your metal bobbins can expand and become taller, significantly taller than the bobbin was originally designed. So all of it really has to do with the thread being so awesome. It's not a bad thing. It's super strong. We want strong thread. So now I'm taking and I'm placing the foot, sorry. So the faux piping is under the tunnel, and then slide the pearls under. We want them to stick out past the back of the foot whenever you use these, using a zigzag stitch. And whenever I sew beads on the edge, I always make a wider zigzag swing than is required. So this would normally only need a 3.5 millimeter wide width, and I'm taking it to 5.5 millimeters. Stitch length is 1.5 millimeters long. And I'm going to reduce my thread tension to a 3.0 from a 4.0. Ignore the sewing machine needle. And now I'm gonna do something that's gonna blow you away. So I just want to make sure my pearls are not caught on anything. I've actually cut them so that I can just let it lay there. This would be a great opportunity to film this with my other camera. Now the tunnel and the pearls encompass the entire opening of the tunnel on the foot. So I'm gonna let go. Yes, I can. And it's a zigzag stitch. So even if the beads move around, I'm gonna show you what happens. So the pearls shifted over, but because it's a zigzag, you can just swing them back over to the side so that they sit on the edge of that faux piping. Isn't that pretty? Okay, I'm so far from center with my machine. But when you guide it, you can not have to shift it at all. So I'll go ahead and go all the way down. Now this is going to add some significant body to the ruffle. But you'll notice that I did not guide the beads. The foot does the guiding of the beads. All I'm doing is steering the fabric. Isn't that pretty? It's so pretty. Okay. But how do we get that to gather? And if there was real piping in there, it would be even harder to get it to ruffle like that. Oh, it's so pretty. Now I feel like doing it on Tinks. Oh, goodness. Should I do it? Should I sew the beads on and make hers with beads on the edge? Yes or no? Hurry up. Vote, you guys, vote. Was it enough to see that, or do you want me to do it in the garment? You had exploding bobbin once. It sounds so bad when you say it, doesn't it? I guess I made my own decision, but it doesn't take that long, and since I don't have anywhere I have to be tonight, other than at the dog's bowl to feed them. She is my dog, after all. I mean, the inventor of the Creative Feats dog should have pearls on her dress. That's how I felt about my poor little girl, Jennifer. When she had her christening, I made her a christening gown and I put pearls all over it because she was only 6 months old when Creative Feet launched to the world. And so after her christening was over, her arms were all really raw under here because they were rubbing against the pearls. And I have a technique where you can put the pearls into the fabric for situations like that. It's called inlaid beading. So if you have the Creative Feet technical guide and workbook and the video, the inlaid beading technique is great for infant wear. So you can still dress them up, but not torture them at the same time. Still feels like this is like the romantic setting here. Romantic lighting on camera 3. Maybe if maybe it won't have that issue. I can turn up the light on the sewing machine. Oh, it's already up. Guess not. So this is a long piece here. And my focus is not on the pearls. My focus is on the faux piping and keeping it off the edge. And I want to make sure that, because I have a large amount of it, get this over to the right side because it was pulling. Look at all those yeses. You all agreed on something. I don't know if that's ever happened before. Mood lighting. I'm going to take a sip of my breakfast. I'm going to mute myself so you don't have to hear me swallow. I didn't unmute myself. Oy vey. All right, so what I was saying was that this was Dr. Gundry protein. And that was, I drank half of it and had ice, so it's chilled, and it's okay that it was breakfast. And now you could use a bigger pearl, but if you did, it would add even more weight to it. And I don't think we have to worry about positioning this on the edge of this because it's going to be on her back. So I don't think she'll be able to sit on it. But otherwise, you want to think about where you place pearls. You want to think about where you place the pearls because your dog, if it has to sit on it, well, would you want to sit on pearls? I don't think so. Notice the pearls are swung out to the side. Any other sewing machine company that has copied my pearls and piping foot, because I am the original inventor of the pearls and piping foot. All the other companies all came up with knockoffs. They don't have the same shaped tunnel. So if you watch them, they usually have their fingers holding on to the pearls because the foot doesn't take complete control of them. And because this foot does, now I can see here I'm coming up on a bad spot. So I'm going to cut that. Oh no, that's not good. Here we go. Coming up on where it ends, and when I do get to that last bead, I'm going to lift and go back again. Try to get more rows of stitching on that last pearl and bring this back in. And I turn the handle by hand for this because the bead's like somebody's head sticking up until I get it stitched down. I'll lift and go back again. And no one will know, no one will be the wiser. My thread is caught somewhere else. It's so rare for my thread to get caught anymore. The thread dispenser usually keeps everything under control. There we go. And I could hear it getting tighter. Despite having my own voice in my left ear. Light touch on the fabric. Let the sewing machine take the fabric through. The beads will automatically go through. Left swing is going on the faux piping. It's not real piping if you're watching now and just popped in. This is March 10th. Don't I sound so positive? Yeah, March 10th, 2022. If you're watching this and it is not that date, then you're watching a rewind or you're watching on the replay. And what I'm doing right now is sewing pearls on the edge of a faux piping ruffle because I can. And so why not? It's not real piping, but it looks like it. And now so basically we're making what looks like faux beaded piping ruffle. And that's the result. See how consistent that is all the way along the edge of that. And there's where the join is, where I could stitch a little bit more on that one pearl. Is my thread not in the needle? And this is how thin that thread is. I don't know if you can even see it on the camera. It's there, even if you can't see it. And you shouldn't use your needle threader unless you have one like mine with nylon thread, because it's so strong it can bend your little needle threader wire. was pulling the wrong end. Do you guys ever do that? Pull the wrong end of the bobbin thread? I mean, needle thread? This machine is so noisy when I do things with it. Okay, now we're going to sew. Oh, we got to gather the ruffle. And according to the pattern, the pattern piece itself, here it is, was supposed to be that long. And I think I'm not going to push it. Well, it's really not that much more, is it? May as well just leave it alone and let it be a little bit fuller. So which would be the best method of gathering, do you think, for this? With all of its weight. Sewing over a cording is one method. I got so many ways of gathering, you guys. Oh, you would really like to see this. Should I even show this? This machine is the baby lock, and when you push the needle threader button, the tension discs open while the threader pushes the thread through the needle. So Brother also has it. The newer machines tend to have that. So if you push a button and you don't have to do anything and the foot drops and everything comes down automatically, then you're probably fine to use the needle threader with the nylon thread. But if you have to push a button to push the thread through the needle, that is where the tension discs may be closed on the thread and you may not be aware of it, and that then you could bend that tiny little wire that goes through your eye. Yes, Tinkerbell is going to have the cutest little dress. She has no idea, and she doesn't care. Chase would prefer it. Okay, so I'm going to show you something neat, because why not? Oh my God, what time is it? 4:30. I'll go till 5. Should be done enough by 5. Sometimes you just don't have any pearl cotton in your sewing room to sew over to gather a longer piece of something. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever made a dress and they recommend you use a chain, some type of trim to make a belt loop for, and you wish you could make it match better? You're going to love this. Yes, you are. Oh, my slippers. I have to put my slippers on. I wonder if it's snowing. This is what time they said we'd have precipitation. Sorry. Slippers. I'm going to use 2 different colors of threads. Oh, I got lime green. Is that enough? Is it going to show? It's not going to be contrasting enough. Oh yeah, pink or fuchsia. That'll show up, and that'll be perfect. I've lost track of the pattern. Today, didn't I say? Oh, what day is it? Am I wrong? Isn't it? Aren't we in March? Don't scare me like that. March 10th. January, February, March. My phone says it's March 10th. It must be right. I wouldn't even know, honestly. So, Mary, what day did you think it was? Because I'm pretty sure I'm right. Were you just testing me to see if I was live? All right, you guys, you ready to see something really cool? Because everything I've shown you isn't. You never know what day it is. I struggle with that a little bit. I struggle with it throughout the day. So we have a piece of fabric that we want to gather. And it's this long. So it would be more affordable or easier to use a cording that's easy to pull out that long and then zigzag over it to gather the fabric. And it's better when your fabric is heavy to use a cording of some type to gather over. And I could use that, except for I want to show you something cool that has multiple purpose. Where's my little pieces I'm going to sew this to? Right here. So it needs to be that long. It needs to be the length. We're grabbing my needle and bobbin thread. And we're going to use our thread to gather this. And it's got to be the length of the fabric that you're going to sew it to. Not necessarily as long as this is. It doesn't make sense to your brain right away, but it will. Okay, what am I doing? Oh yeah. So I'm going to pull out a good amount of thread so that it's as long as that piece, the circumference of it. And I did 2 layers. And now I'm doing one more. And now I'm going to show you up close what to do with it. So now we have all these threads. Don't let them get tangled up. Ah! Drop my scissors. Okay. And then you gather it up, put it underneath the pearls and piping foot. You have the zigzag stitch on, selected. And it just sits there. So you have to pull. And if you just hold the thread up, it will automatically swing over those threads. Oops, sorry, my arm's in the way. So I am the feed dogs for this. So you see my left hand gathering it up from behind the foot. And my right hand is holding it up. And I'm creating this multicolored matching. It matches the garment. And we can use this to create loops for belt loops, for anything that you need to loop. Isn't that neat? Is it the 11th in Australia? Are you trying to mess with me now, Amy? I am the feed dogs. Sorry, I just heard myself say that. Made me hear a song in my head. So now remember, if we keep the stitching that we're using to gather closer to the edge than the seam allowance is going to be, you'll have an easier time. Use a 3-step zigzag. So it's going stitch, 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 side to side. We want to lock that cording so that it's got good hold of the fabric. And now we switch to a regular zigzag stitch. And as I mentioned before, a narrower width gives you, more control. And you can gather as you're sewing. The longer the length, the faster it will gather. So it's gathering because I'm holding back on the cord and I'm steering straight. It can get in your way, so be mindful of that. But you can also just sew it holding your hand up and afterward gather it up. So you don't have to gather as you go. Gather as you go. Are you on the go? You need to gather something up. Let's gather things. You can gather on the go, or you can gather after you get there. And this is me after 2 hours has passed. Getting wacky. I prefer to gather as I go. When I know that I have a lot of gathering required in order to get the item to fit, because then you have less pulling to do. It's super easy, so you might get bored because it's just too easy. And what's nice about this versus another cording is because of the twisted thread that you created, it matches exactly, and it has a little bit of texture to it, so it makes the fabric or the thread that you're sewing stick to it a little bit, so that it locks that ruffle in position easier. You're less likely to pull it too much as you ease it to make your ruffles look consistent all the way around. And then you cut the thread that's connected to the machine short and leave your chain that you created long. Are you guys applauding? Say yay! Now we gotta see, is it gonna fit? What a pile of mess I have. We got beads and cording, all kinds of stuff in the way now. If you live in New York City, that's where I buy my pearls in bulk. You go in with a suitcase and dress in a suit and bargain. So I don't want to spend that. I would like it for less. All right. I got my lid, Amy. I'm probably going to need it, though. Okay. This cannot be a 3-part video. But I'm so hungry. So, for some reason, my clock is gone on the main screen. So, I have no idea what time it is. It can be dangerous. Fold it in half when it's all ruffled up. And then we want to see if it looks like it's perfect. I should have measured to see how much extra I made mine. It's actually perfect. Always start on the end that's locked, the end that you started on, which will have a shorter thread end on it and be stuck. Because you want to ease out as you go around if you need to add a little bit more. And I'm kind of making the ruffles look good, and I want to think. It's always a good idea to think. Because I'm trying to make this a double-sided outfit. So go around and around. Now this side's going to be ruffled, and this can break your needle, these pearls. So we're going to have to be mindful of that when we get there. Got a little selvage in there, so I'm going to go past that. Because remember, this isn't cut according to the pattern. I made my ruffle longer. It looked like 6 inches longer. Get this one out of the way. It is going to be cute. except for now I feel like not having this be on top. I feel like having, in other words, I feel like having the bodice be like that and having it not match. Because the faux piping isn't going to show. It doesn't matter. It's just a dog dress. It's $4.39. Thank you. What should I do, you guys? Should I pin it this way or should I... Should the skirt ruffle be like that and you just see white pearls, because that is kind of pretty too. See? So should it be like that? Or should I pin it so that, or sew it so that the ruffle matches, but you see the faux piping at the outside? Hurry up. This would be choice 2. This is choice 1. I mean, they're both cute. Choice 1 or choice 2? I like the contrasting ruffle. Should have had the... But, you know, it's double-sided. It's a double-sided dress now. I really don't know how many calories is in this shake, but I don't think it's very much. My stomach's growling. That wasn't Chase, that was my stomach. One it is. Oh God, everyone said 2. It's gonna be cute no matter what, though. See, I can just switch the dress around and have her wear it both ways. Is this the first time? No, probably not. Amy will say it. No, we have voted before, and you did not. You denied us. It was probably a purple thread moment. Because it's frequently, I give you guys the option of a color thread and I deny you the purple. Because if some of you had your way, I would make everything out of purple. So much faster to clip it. But you gotta make sure that when you sew that gather stitch, make sure you're on the fabric, that you don't fall off the edge. Here's where I fell off the edge, so it's a little bit harder to get it pinned in place. Flip a bobbin. That's funny. That's funny, Piccola. Instead of flip a coin, flip a bobbin. I need to do that. I should have... No, the whole point is to get you guys making comments, because then the YouTube algorithm and the Facebook algorithm thinks that you guys are having a splendid time. So the more you respond to what I'm saying, the better it is for me. In case you care enough to do that for me. All right. I cannot believe how... 6 inches more. Now the reason I needed more is because, why? It's thicker. With the beads on there, that extra weight. So if you're following her pattern and you want to do a beaded edge like this, okay, so now I'm going to stitch around and sew it to one side first and then to the other, even though everything in me wants to sew it as a sandwich and sew it all in at once. And I could if I showed you another technique, but I don't have time for that. Because I could sew all day and never repeat. But I am going to use the pearls and piping foot, I think, for this. And I'll explain why. Because the cording is kind of like a cording, kind of like a row of beads. The pearls and piping foot may be a better option for sewing. It does tend to handle a lot of bulk better too than the Satinedge foot. So straight stitch, left needle position. So back and forth. Now this is well within the 1/4 inch seam allowance. I got a pin here to help me. That's too short. Come on. Ah, there we go. Just want to pull this out. The applique tools would probably work for this too. And this is to help me be able to ease out the gathers and make them look more even. And also kind of pull the fabric edge to the edge of the piece beneath it. This would be a time to use a longer stitch length and a light tension so you could rip it out if you didn't do a good job, which I did not do. It's a little bit more to handle because of the beads on the edge. It's got more body. Don't lose sight of your edge of your fabric because this isn't the Satinedge foot. Now, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the Satinedge foot on. Too much to think about. Satinedge foot takes all that out of your head and makes it so you can just focus on keeping the edges together. Yep. If the cording was thicker, then and it rode over it, the pearls and piping foot would be a better option. So, have you guys found that you need to use any of the feet that come with your machine lately? How long's it been? Of course, if you haven't opened your Creative Feet yet, then you don't know that there's so many things that you can do with these 3 feet, eliminating the need for so many of the other ones. It's so rare that I ever have to pull out another foot. One of the ones that came with the machine. Somebody mentioned it, I think, in the school, which is why, or on our YouTube channel. She hasn't had to put her foot on any other foot on her machine in so long she can't remember, something like that. So I thought, well, we'd ask you guys how you feel about that. I know that Satinedge is almost always the foot I use unless I'm doing some with my other 2. But I did use the rolled hem foot last week. So if you guys have felt challenged by your rolled hem foot, watch last week's Fabrically Speaking Live to see my trick. Here we go. I'm almost done with this part. And then we have to just do it all over again with the other half. Anything aqua or turquoise works for me too. It's Brenda, right? See, if you just updated your account in YouTube, I'd know your name. Oh, it's still looking so pretty. See, now we're at the end. And that's all I had to adjust to get it to fit. So Wendy, if you're still with me, are you going to make one with pearls now? She's made a whole bunch of these. She did share some in the school, pictures of hers, in case you guys didn't catch it. And you'll see the pictures where I announce the show for each week. And I will be posting some pictures of this. Some close-up shots. I just poked my fingernail with this pen. Got a big sticky or thick area there. There we go. I love it when something works out that accurately. And it looks like I tried to make it happen. So if you have a stylus, you could be using a stylus as well. Instead of poking yourself with a pin. Ta-da! Aw, isn't it lovely? Oh, she's gonna be so sweet. I have to finish this. She goes tomorrow at 11. Okay. Pretty sure that the pattern is just gonna have me do the same thing again with the other piece. Chase just came in here and whined and then walked out. It's a lot of foo-foo. And I know that she has you gather this up a little too. If I remember correctly, of what little I read, because I'm a bad student. So the ruffle, so we've done this with a little bit extra flare. And now we're doing that. Oh, and then she has your top stitch around, which the Satinedge foot will become your top stitch foot for you as well. This is definitely a clip it clip project. So you see how I have that little thing there? That would not work out. And you don't want this piece to suddenly become longer than that piece. And I should have sewn that ruffle with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. So the second pass, I could pass over that. But I didn't. The threads are all matching, blend nicely with the fabric, so hopefully it won't be a problem. Lots of clips this time, mostly to make sure that the beads don't come around and get hit by the needle. You know you've talked too much when your tongue feels funny in your mouth. I need to drink some water. I'm going to mute myself while I do. I unmuted myself this time. My sister just sent me a text saying it's geese baby season in New Jersey. She sends me little videos. She has her own pond or her own little mini lake in her backyard, and she has her own little duck family there. She has Peking ducks, and she has several different breeds of duck. My sister is a duck farmer. That's something I never thought I'd ever say. Maybe me, but not her. And then my other sister, that's my sister Kat, who some of you may have met on the road. She used to do shows for me. And she also went on the Home Shopping Network when I couldn't be on there. But now she's got ducks. And cutest videos. She's Ches Acres on Instagram, I think. And there's just a bunch of videos of ducks. She gets new little baby ducks and she has them swimming in her sink. They're so cute. What does this remind you of? It reminds me of something. Remember, always starting on the end that can't adjust anymore, but it doesn't really matter because it's already stitched to one. Time to sew it in. Fun fact, I can quack like a duck, and I'm not going to do it. It's too loud. What is your funny little special talent that no one really knows about? Tell me in the chat. I didn't notice you weren't noisy, Amy. I can't really keep up with the chat today. So if anyone has felt neglected, know that it's because I'm having to watch what I'm doing. Oops. Once again, pushing against the foot. I gotta sneeze. Hold on, you guys. Well, that would have woke you all up if you were sleeping. None of us sneeze quietly in our family. I usually only sneeze when it's going to snow, so that makes me wonder what it looks like outside. The studio is completely closed off, so can't look out the window or anything. You can gobble like a turkey. Maybe one day when on the VIP. Sorry, Tink. All right, you know I gone too long when Tinkerbell starts bugging me. I think I'm going to sneeze again, you guys. So if all of a sudden I go quiet, you know why. Come on. No sneezing. Oh, boy. Tell me what? Come on, you guys. Can any of you touch your tongue to your nose? I can. Oh my gosh, Claire went too long. She started talking about really weird things during her last live show. I feel like I cut this pink one a little bit big. It's not coming out perfect. Geez, now I'm coughing. I think it's time to stop. This can't be a part 3. Oh my goodness. It's just a little thing to take this many times. Too much information? I shouldn't teach you so much. How dare I? Ta-da! Of course, you should clip it. Best dressed dog in town. It's so close to being done. This has to be gathered up to fit into this little hole. Which gathering technique should I use? And all of it, including this, goes in there. So we pretty much have to gather it. How much? You can tell how I sewed poorly. And this is my tell, because I cut it right. I gotta go around a little more. I think this fabric is stretchier too than the other one, so spray starch would have been good for that. Tongue to nose. TMI. Get out of there. All right, vroom vroom. No, I don't teach you too much. Some days I wonder what the heck I taught you. Like, how did it possibly go that long? What did I teach them? I just keep picturing little baby bonnets. There's nothing that says I can't make baby clothes before there's a grandchild to cook for. Okay, so here's now we can choose. Do I do it this way? Or do I do it this way? What do I do? The only thing that restricts you is this, the collar. But if you don't top stitch it, So if you made 2 sets of collars, if you want to make yours reversible, it's so cute. Should I do it this way, where the dress itself is one? It's cute no matter what, but I think I'm going to just do this. All right, enough of this asking for help. Whoops. May as well pick up all the other things I dropped. Do you guys have a hammer or a pair of pliers in your sewing room? This is how you sew pearls in things without damaging your sewing machine. So the area that's going to go inside, I'm just gonna crunch the pearls. This scares Tinkerbell. I think it reminds her of getting her toenails done. So just crunch those pearls. They're heat set onto this thread. So then it's still strong and it still stays in the seam. I just popped my knuckle. That's a first. So if you can't crunch it with pliers, you can use a hammer and hammer some of them off. Cut some of that off. Okay. There's a pearl in there. Or part of a pearl. Try not to get them in your sewing machine. Which, better to do that over here. Oh, and I never finished putting the pearls on the edge of the piping, because I showed you how even if you sew up on it, you can move them back off to the edge. Crunchy, crunchy. Now you know the secret. I know one of you was making Bible covers and you were putting pearls on and you had trouble at the seam. So now you know how you handle that. So you can still have them secured, because I think her pearls came off. Yeah, if everything we owned was two-sided, we could wash our clothes less often, right? No, you. We still have to wash our clothes. Okay, gathering technique. Which gathering technique? Oh, I know which one I'm going to use. Pearls and piping foot again, but this time I'm going to do the pull the bobbin thread up gathering technique. Tinkerbell standing up. She's like on her chair, standing up, looking at me. All right, woman. You have officially gone too long. By the way, I glue my Velcro down to stitch it. Never use an adhesive Velcro. Bring the bobbin thread up. How many ways can you gather? What's the difference between a gather and a ruffle? or what's the difference between gathering and ruffling, is what I meant to say. Center needle position. So 1 full stitch. Bring that thread beneath, hold it up, zigzag stitch. Longer length this time because I'm going to be shoving this into another piece, and this is bigger than the pattern called for. This is really, really thick and hard right there. You don't have to gather while you're sewing. That's me telling myself. So I can't get it to move. What do? Lengthen the stitch length. I forgot I had already done that. So something must be stuck. Also, when I gather, I don't just hold it. I do this little tug, tug, tug thing while I go. I think the fabric just likes it better. Look at all those threads. I'm going to reverse it to secure the stitch to the fabric. Pull it out, and this time I'm not cutting this thread short on the machine because I'm going to tie it. Oh, goodness. That's just so cute. Oh my goodness, it's ridiculously cute. I don't have any big ribbon. But she has you make a bow for the back and sew a D-ring onto a thingy. This is the sound of me trying to get out of finishing this pattern. There we go. So we want to lock it. We want to lock it the right length. And it's from there to there. So we're easing it out to there, so it's not that gathered. And now we tie the threads that are connected to the fabric to the threads that we gathered over. There's a lot of extra threads here from the other gathering stitches. And now when we're putting it into that pocket, it won't ungather itself. And honestly, I don't care if all this is in there. First thing we're supposed to do, and now I get why she has you use a a lining for this as well, because it gives it more body, and she had the lining, I guess, be a little bit smaller than the seam allowance. This is the part you struggle with? Okay. Do you have our fabric clips? You had to watch me just butcher this whole lesson, Wendy, just to get to this part. So this is one concept. The other concept is to sew it. Sew it to one side first. I'm leaning toward that. I really got to move that camera. Keep thinking it's closer to my sewing machine. Took me a while to figure out what I was thinking. So first off, I should have cut my selvage off. I didn't, so I need to go beyond that, which is hopefully not going to confuse any of you. Satinedge foot to get an accurate 1/4 inch seam allowance, although I probably will not do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, as I keep mentioning. If you start out with a narrower seam, you can go past it on your next stitch. But if you start out with a bigger seam, you can't. So while my 1/4 inch seam allowance, where's that thingy? Whoops. Oh, I am going to use the Appliquick tool for this. I know which one would, yeah, the one with the 2 fingers. Where is it? There it is. So it has these 2 little fingers there. It pretty much makes your fingers miniature. So I don't know how she has you do it because I'm not reading the directions. I'm following my instincts. But we don't want a 1/4 inch seam allowance right now. Eighth inch. Yeah, because we're trying to sew the whole thing into it. We just want to get it so we know that it's all gathered equally first. I get really quiet when I have to think. And I'm sitting here going, I should have changed my color of thread because then I would know what I'm stitching. There's so many. So that would be a hint for you right now to use a considerably contrasting color of thread of what you've been using. Can always do another run of stitching to get past your gathering stitch, and also you can remove that gathering stitch. Chase. He has entered the no dog zone. He just knocked over my water bottle, which is a closed bottle. I don't know how much you're able to see because I'm having to watch what I'm doing, so I didn't look at the camera. So this thing allows me to push my gathers as well as then also help push all that bulk in there while holding down on either side of that stitching line. This is a challenging thing. There's another way this could be done. I had to add the beads in there to make it even more challenging. Okay, so now we know that the ruffle fits. All of that stitch is removable easily, by the way, but this was just so that we knew that it was gathered the right amount. Now we can take and insert this into here and get this. This is going to be top stitched down, but we want to make sure it doesn't move. So how do you make sure something doesn't move? Use the glue. And the reasoning behind the lining would have definitely helped. So if you watched the entire thing and you saw me not use lining on my pieces, the designer of the pattern was correct. Lining would help keep form to these straps as well. It's very cute though. My goodness. I don't know. Seems like a pin to glue. And what you don't want is this fabric to be any more than a 1/4 inch folded over as you lay it down. Sometimes I use an ironing board cover or an ironing board to pin on when I do stuff like this, because you can just pin right into your ironing board. And then the garment can't move because it's locked onto the ironing board. Does that make sense? This is ridiculously cute. Oh yeah. And whenever I usually do that, I also glue that flap folded under. You can use the iron to speed up the drying time. Slide your finger across. It's a gentle pushing. You don't want to push down real hard. Oh my goodness. Who's on their way? Who's on their way where? I'm curious. I miss stuff. So that side's going to dry while I set this side for a top stitch. Remember, this was just sewn in with an 1/8 inch seam allowance just to get it set in there. This is another time you could use my invisible applique stitch technique in a sewing scenario. Man, I should have cut that selvage off. Such a bad habit. Hi, Chase. Hi, Chase. Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Time to say hi to Chase, everybody. He says, I want my own little bonnet or something. Okay, feel better? I know. I'm aware. I know what time it is. You're my dog alarm clock. Yes, you're a good boy. Good boy. Good boy, go. Shoo, I'm covered in thread. Okay. So I don't know, Wendy, how she has you normally do this, but now you can see. And I'm trying to make it double-sided, which is just adding to the slow process. Trying to not have to cut my threads out, but it's no big deal to cut out a really long zigzag stitch, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rip that stitch out because I went way past 1/4 inch on that gathering stitch. He's got his squeaky toy now. He's like, she's not going to leave that room without me getting serious about this. So out comes the squeaky toys. I'm using a liberal amount of the glue in there, more than I usually do. But remember, we're trying to keep it in there. And the reason I'm using more glue is because it's got ruffles. Oh, now Tinkerbell. Oh, he dropped the squeaky toy in here and Tinkerbell's got it now. Tell you what, I love this tool for a lot more than just the patchwork applique. What do you think, Wendy? Does this look like a better method? Does it make sense? I mean, if you were not making it double-sided, the other side wouldn't matter at all. Then you just sew it to the opposite side first instead of the top first, and top stitch last. And you can use invisible thread to stitch this down in the needle and the bobbin, and no one would see a stitch on either side. Ready to stitch. Not too bad. Now try not to move it. I'm going to leave the contrasting colors of threads in so you can see. Should wait for it to dry. It would be perfect if you did. How long would it take to dry? 15 minutes. As much water as is in the glue and as much water as I put down. The foot is tipping significantly, so this is not going to work. Too much tipping. So I think I'll use the pearls and piping foot instead. You could also put a ribbon right there using the sequin ribbon foot or the quilt highlights and stitch it on with the quilt highlights. Then it would look beautiful and no one would know you were trying to cover up an area. Definitely a tricky area though. Such a noisy machine. Boink, doink. It sounds like a farm animal. While we're in the thick of it, stitch length helps you get over bumpy areas like this. But you can see that the pearls and piping foot, even though it doesn't have a guide that helps you guide straight, you have to guide straight. its unique shape lets you go over lots of uneven areas like this without it getting stuck. Oh, I still have to finish this for her to wear it to the vet tomorrow. Or I sew it together with elastic. So just a slip-on dress. Know that I'm not doing the best straight stitch or edge stitch here because I really should just have ended the show. And I missed on the bottom because I didn't let it dry. So you gotta let it dry so you don't end up with stuff like that. And this is the side I was going to top stitch from. So there is another technique where you hold the fabric a different way and you sew with invisible thread and you zigzag the two seams together and you have invisible thread in the needle and the bobbin and you don't see any stitch at all when you're finished. So wait for it to dry. If you're not patient, use your iron to make it dry quicker. Of course, you're probably not going to try pearls your first time unless maybe you are. I was going to say unless you're Amy. But I have no idea if you would be brave right off the bat. There, I need to like open this seam up a little bit to get that under. A little hand sewing maybe. Of course, I try not to. Make sure those pearls. This is where I should change to a 90-14 needle. So I'm going through more than 12 layers. But I go really slow. Walk it a little bit. Lift and walk. And then Satinedge Foot for top stitching around the edge. Or edge stitching. Oops. Sometimes the Pearls and Piping Foot actually feels the seam allowance and can be used as a edge stitch foot. Gotta watch out for the ruffle. This is what makes it not double-sided though, is securing that area. It'll make more sense if I take it off and show you. Isn't it cute, you guys? I just need to sew Velcro on there and Velcro on here. Another option would have been to have made an elastic, but they didn't do that because they're counting on this dress to be what you would attach your leash onto. I'm not going to do that with Tinkerbell. Oh. She ran away. I'll take a picture of her in it and I'll put it in the school. Unless I can see her. Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell. She's like, I don't trust you, woman. Tinkerbell. Come here, baby. Come here. Come here, baby. Come here. Oh. Oh. Yay. I'm interested because the measurements did not work out to the small. Oh my goodness. Whoopsie. Hold on. Oh my goodness. There she is, you guys. I don't want to put her through too much here. So I'm going to put some Velcro on there, like they suggest. I love you. She's like, how humiliating. See, the miniature Yorkie in her says, I love it. And the Jack Russell in her says, don't you put that silly thing on me. That's all I'm going to do for this. And I hope that you found the video beneficial. If you have a little doggy in your life that needs an adorable little dress, this pattern is precious. And now you can see how you can take it a step further and put pearls on the edge of your ruffles. How to do a faux piping ruffle. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I sure hope you'll do so today. And if you don't know, I have a free online school, create.clarerowley.com. The link for it and all of the products you saw me use today are in the description. When this video ends, be sure to hit the like button then, because that is what YouTube sees. And if you're on Facebook watching, hearts and, hearts and flowers. With that, I love you all. I will see you in the classroom. Bye. Mwah.